We're in. Hi, mate.
What's up, brother?
You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Finding a cure for that boredom?
Nah, fucking
No,
hell.
I'm going to say, if
Oh,
you
fuck
find
Lando.
it.
10 seconds, I've already dropped an F-bomb.
I was going to say, if you find it, fire it over. Jesus.
Trying to stay busy.
You managed to
What
get
about
much?
you?
Yeah, a bit bored today, actually. Yesterday was the first time I had a bit of a meltdown. I thought, I've got to get out. I don't know what I can do, but I just need to do something. I need to go outside. So,
Are you
and
still in Huddersfield?
no, I'm east of Leeds, so about 40 minutes from there. Yeah.
Whereabouts?
So we are. Where can I describe? In between Leeds and York, bang in the middle of Leeds and York.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
Mate, go see Ollie Richardson.
Yes, he's in Huddersfield, isn't he?
He is, yeah. I think he is.
Yeah, no, I'd be around about there. But I finally read, and I had it in my inbox for ages, the ebook, the 99 Problems Ebook.
Yeah.
Read it, and I thought it'd be a good thing. I know we chatted about some of this kind of stuff last time as well, but it'd be pretty good to go
Yeah.
over. I know we chatted about pin your hopes on one employer, etc., etc. But I know I read it and enjoyed it, so I thought it'd be cool to go into a few of the points on there as well.
Yeah,
So
cool.
for anyone that didn't come in last week, didn't tune in last week, one of the points and one of the first points in the ebook. What was the point of the ebook, by the way? Just to get things off your chest, just to give people a bit of insight into the kind of real world.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan of Nassim Taleb, and one of the books that he's written that's kind of less technical, it's quite quick read. It's called The Bed of Procrustes,
Okay.
and it's basically a book that he intended to just be picked up and put down, and you can skim through it and take a little nugget from it, and it's just to start you off thinking about certain topics. So that was basically a similar vein that I wanted the 99 Problems ebook to be. And it was just a bunch of stuff where I wanted to put it out, but it wasn't necessarily a full blog post in itself or an article or anything like that, but it was just a brain dump of 99 things that I've kind of picked up along the way that hopefully people will find useful. Yeah, and I also went for that format because I just had a child as well, so I wasn't really into the form, writing at that time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Toombs has just commented, and I've just realised how red my face looks. It's horrific. I haven't been in the sun today, but wear your sunscreen because it's for gingers. It's over 15 degrees equals a problem.
I got a little bit burnt yesterday. Yeah, a little bit.
So the first one that stood out to me out of the 99 was, again, something we chatted last week. Any business owner who puts their entire financial hopes on one customer is considered a fool. And my little input into this was my big fear in leading up to December 17, when I was employed by one person, had a little bit of income from the podcast.
Yep.
But I was scared because the guy who was making the decisions, and when I first joined Catapult, quite a few people let go within the first 3 months. So instantly that made me fill my pants. And the guy who was making the decisions, I didn't particularly trust him. And I thought, he's basically got me by the balls. He has got the power to mean that we can pay our mortgage or not. So I was like, this has to change. That realization freaked me out. And that was my kick up the arse to actually try to do something about it and broaden the amount of income streams that I had. And we chatted about that last time. But what was your defining moment in terms of that realization and understanding that you shouldn't or you can't just have one stream and one reliance?
I think there's lots of things. I think we mentioned last week that a defining kind of coming of age moment for people kind of around about our age was the financial crash. And when you basically get pushed into the real world, because I graduated as it hit, when you get pushed into the real world and something like that happens, I forget who it was, but basically the argument is, if you want to succeed, you have to learn how to avoid failure. That's the first thing to success, is to don't blow up, don't avoid ruin. And 2008, you're getting a lot of examples of ruin. And if you look at what unites people that experienced the worst of 2008, it's solely reliant on one employer for income, overextended, never putting money away, not having contingencies like that. And then I think as well, if you just pay attention to sport in general, unfortunately, there is no relationship between your ability to do the job and the income that you make. Mm-hmm. And there's also no relationship between your ability to do the job and security. Because every year there's fantastic coaches that get cut and there's terrible ones that get promoted. Mm-hmm. So bearing that in mind, I'm not saying that I don't want to operate in that system, because there's things about coaching that I love, but you have to realize that that is a reality of the coaching profession, and you have to try and make yourself robust against that. Mm-hmm. So things like that, and trying to avoid failure, and making sure that your paycheck next month, next year, and so on is contingent on the quality of the work that you put out and your input and your work, rather than the correct person likes me. Because when it's going for you, great. When it's not going for you, you are one person being appointed or changed away from ruin. Mm-hmm. Which is not good.
Is there anything you've done when you've got a job that you've tried to negotiate or tried to put in there to give you a bit more extra security, or even things like, I'm allowed to do X, Y, and Z? Because I know a lot of people in people's contracts, I don't know if it's like that over there, I'm guessing it is, that you can't do things on the side.
Yeah.
Have you put anything there that means that you can, or you can do other things, or a bit more security?
I've been pretty fortunate that I've yet to work for someone where that would be them saying that I can't do it. Okay. I wouldn't take a job that required me to for the reasons that we've discussed. Yeah. I think it's really important that you do have the opportunity to do that. And I can understand a little bit the extent to which teams will want to control the perception of their staff in the public domain and so on. But when you consider the weak position that puts you in, if you're going to concede that to an employer, you have to do what you can to try and negotiate more security on the back end. So, for example, duration contracts, financial penalties for early termination, and so on. But even then, it can be difficult because, given the choice between, do you want 100 grand now that's going to be taxed, and once it's gone, it's gone, or do you want $5 a month every month for the next however many years? So it can be a tough one. But I would say, first of all, don't put yourself in a position where that's going to be a stipulation put on you. And if you are, try and change it. And I mean, I'm not sure how I'd work around it. I guess it would be, if you can be a silent partner and try and make money elsewhere that doesn't, put you into the public domain as much.
Yeah. I worked with a guy who used to be a head coach of a conference club, so like tier 5 football. And he got appointed, and he said that his first question upon them saying, we'd like to offer you the job, was, how much do I get when you sack me? And they were like, well, what do you mean? He's like, I'm going to get sacked. So how much are you going to give me? And a year later, what he negotiated, he got, because a year later they sacked him. So that was probably quite, forward thinking from him.
Yeah.
But the second thing from the ebook, and this is an interesting one. All things being equal, people want to hire and work with people they know, like, and trust.
Yep.
Have you always known that? Did that come from another influence, or have you just got to know that within our industry?
Oh, mate, I've been on the wrong end of it multiple times. You know, I was in a job interview once where I went through the interview and there was a practical task, and the feedback was, we thought you were technically the better interviewee, but, you know, cue a laundry list of bullshit reasons. And the person that got appointed was the best friend of the head coach. It was literally his best man at his wedding. And they said, well, you know, we're gonna offer you an assistant position to keep you on, and you can, you know, you can gain more experience and so on. And well, I thought, I'll take it on the chin and be like, oh, maybe I will learn something. And I went there. Within a month, it was obvious, you know, I'm not gonna learn anything here. And it was nepotism. And you know, he actually told a mutual friend of ours that he got it wrong. Now, yeah, again, I think you once you get on the other side of the table, you can understand why that happened. Because, like your guy in the conference just said, you are in a field where you are being judged from day one. You're against the clock because you've got a fixed duration contract typically to deliver what you said you're going to give them. At some point, it's really going to crank up and people are going to come after you. And when you are leading a department, you have to appoint staff who you're effectively putting your livelihood in their hands. So that's how it feels on the other side. Mm-hmm. And now, obviously, you can have rose-tinted glasses about people, but obviously, the more comfortable choice for you to make in that situation is someone where you know them inside out, you trust them, and you, not to put like a wartime analogy on it, but that's a person that you want next to you in the trenches. Mm-hmm. So that's why it happens. Now, is that going to change? No, it's not. And when you decry it when you're on the losing end of it, unless you are going to turn a job down out of principle when you're on the right side of it, you should shut your mouth and just accept the reality of the situation as it is. Mm-hmm. Now, what can you do if you recognize that reality and deal with it? What can you do to put yourself ahead? Well, one is to cultivate relationships long before you ever need to call in a favor. And how do you cultivate genuine relationships? They have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you, and they have to have a high perception of the value that you might be able to bring to their organization or them as a person. And it's Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But it has to be, you have to be planting seeds that you might never harvest, because when it's a transactional thing, people can smell it a mile off, and that's not the way to do it.
Mm-hmm. The thing that annoys me when this kind of situation occurs or people discuss it is the fact that people don't realize or neglect to realize that it happens everywhere. It's not just in our industry where this happens. Like I remember going to play a five-a-side when I was a kid. My dad was an architect, and he used to play an architects football league, horrendous level, horrific standard. But we got there, and there was, I think it was like every Wednesday, there was like 6 teams, and everyone knew everyone. And I remember saying to him, how do you know everyone? He's like, well, he used to work with us. He left us and went there. And then we started discussing this, and they used to get a bonus if they recommended someone for a job and they ended up getting the job. So they were incentivized to do exactly this. So for people to think this is just a, performance industry, sport issue, not issue, but
human nature.
Of course it is. Of course it fucking is. Of course it is.
And I'll tell you why as well. Like psychologically, people subconsciously want to outsource their decision making and their judgment to other people, because when it's just you making decisions for yourself, there's a little bit of what if I'm wrong?
Yeah.
But when you outsource that to other people and you look to, like a third party, you can give up a little bit of that and not have to worry so much. You're like, oh well, so and so said so much about this.
Mm-hmm.
What's the first thing that people do when they think about buying a product on Amazon? Scroll down to the review section, 5-star reviews, because Amazon realize what sells products and what sells people is what other people have to say about it, because it worked out for this person, this person, this person. I'm not at risk, rather than anything Amazon can say.
Of course. Well, when you go on holiday, I don't know about you, but just getting absolutely caught up in the in reviews on the internet, on apps, various different apps that review restaurants. Never end up making a fucking decision because I'm so caught up in what everyone else has done. Yeah. Same scenario. The next thing, you are without doubt the worst. Oh yeah, it was the quote from Pirates of the Caribbean.
Yeah.
You are without doubt the worst pirate I've ever seen. And then he comes back with Jack Sparrow comes back, but you have heard of me. This is one thing that I think we might have touched on last time. I think we did actually in your instance with putting stuff out and just putting your head on the block, not necessarily being controversial, but just putting out what you believe and putting yourself out there to be shot down.
Yeah.
I know you've done this right from the start in terms of online content. Have you ever been put off by doing it because of comments you've had or, issues that's come up with employer? Nah.
Well, I mean, Des Ryan said it to me. Des Ryan said, you will never work for Arsenal Football Club because you're too controversial on social media and you don't do Olympic lifting.
Right, okay. Was this during an interview or was this elsewhere?
No, it was just in conversation. He was very nice to me. He invited me to their facility and I, went for a tour, spent the day. He was very, very nice to me. And he said that and he's entitled to say that. Okay. And you have to be okay with the fact that approach is going to shut down many avenues to you. But for them to hire you, they must know you exist. There can be the world's greatest strength coach out there now that's willing to be my assistant for no pay and I can trust him in the dark and he'll do a great job. I don't know where he is because I don't know he exists yet. So in order to, within reason, in order for them to know you exist, you have to put yourself out there and you have to make a little bit of noise and go against the grain. Because it's, Seth Godin talks about the purple cow. You have to be remarkable to get attention. And attention is the first step to making a sale, in this case, yourself. So as long as that approach creates more opportunities than it shuts down, it's worthwhile. Because the worst thing you can do is invite indifference and have nobody know you exist. And people have lukewarm feelings towards you. So I'm never going to work for Arsenal Football Club. Okay, but in 2011, when I was an intern and I had yet to be paid a penny as a strength coach in professional sport, the international director of Exos messaged me through the blog that I'd been writing for that year and said, if rugby ever goes pro in America, would you be interested in working in it? Now, if I haven't done that, he's not going to contact me. And if you look at the relationship that happened from that, it was, I went to the Exos mentorship that Christmas. The next year I went to China for them for a week. And the year after that, I ended up coaching Argentina. And then from that, I went to Japan and so on. And Japan actually happened through an agent finding my website and so on. And, just little things that I'd done online. I ended up in America from what I did online. It's a real long story. Basically, I had written an article that was on Elite FTS, got picked up by Muscle and Fitness. That guy introduced me to another guy who introduced me to Jay. I ended up working for Richmond 6 years later. So Des is right, but I'm more right.
So for them guys, 'cause I know there'll be people out there thinking, I'm not that kind of guy to put myself out there maybe as much as you are in terms of putting your head on the block to be shot down. And what would you say to them kind of people?
Be prepared to pay the price.
Okay.
Yeah. You don't have to be, necessarily be gregarious or combative or controversial. I would say William Wayland is, I don't know him super well, but I'm friendly with him. I would say he's a lot more introverted and less combative than me, but he puts out really good work, and he challenges people to think, and he puts himself out there and shows what he does, and he has a following that's really, really good. In terms of being combative on the other end, Mladen Jovanovic, he put himself out there. He's got a great following. But there are great examples of it. At the end of the day, it's just putting out value. If you are valuable, and unfortunately, it's not if you are valuable. If people perceive you to be valuable, and there's a lot of bullshitters out there that get to the same places until they get seen through. But if people perceive you to be valuable, you're going to get ahead. Yeah.
So creating value. Did you? I think I might have mentioned this last week as well. The videos from, was it Bolton lecture?
Yeah. 2012.
Was that something that really kickstarted your online presence? And can you directly relate anything that came from that or not?
Oh yeah. Like I put that lecture out, and it got picked up by one of the interns at Sydney Roosters, and that got picked up. I know they'd seen that video prior to me arriving in Sydney, and then obviously I reached out, had a meeting, and just a lot of factors. They were not interested in me at all, and then suddenly I got that work for an international rugby team, and then it was, would you like to apply for the under-20s role? I got the under-20s role. So again, I didn't know in advance that it was going to pay off, but again, having people know you exist is the first step. Then demonstrating authority or potential value to people. There's multiple NFL guys that I've reached out to in the last 2 or 3 years and just said, here's a membership to my website. Here's what I'm about. Give me your feedback and ask for nothing in return, and just enjoy.
Yeah.
And it's just things like that. You always have to be doing that. Well, I think you don't always have to be doing it, but I think it's in your interest to do it.
Yeah. So little questions come through. Talking about the NFL, I think we've spoken about this before. Ambitions to work in the NFL? Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So next one. So point 4 of 7. Network, then experience and track record, then qualifications. And I think that was obviously in the order of importance for you if you're hiring someone and how you approach things. And just on the back of that, instantly, when I saw that it was a book recommendation that you gave me 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago, and that was Keith Ferrazzi, Never Eat Alone.
Oh yeah,
which I've read. Probably.
Let's go all the way back.
Yeah,
that job that I didn't get because the head coach's best man at his wedding got the job. Prior to that, I had the biggest chip on my shoulder about, I don't need to do this network bullshit. If I'm good enough, I'm going to get the job, blah, blah, blah. That book recommendation had been made to me in a lecture at university in 2006. And I'd not even picked it up for 5 years. And I was that pissed off when it happened. I was like, I'm going to read that book. Yeah. And it is rare that you say it, but that book changed my life. Because
likewise, yeah.
It's never going to be, are you going to be the guy with the skill and the experience, or are you going to be the guy with a network of people that wants to give him the job? Because it's a false dichotomy. You can be both, and you should be both. So I tried to work just as hard on that after that as I did the actual skill of the job.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've read that probably 4 times.
Yeah.
Written last summer, still highlighting stuff, still folding down pages, just stuff that wasn't necessarily appropriate back then, but is now. Yeah, got to Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi. He's done a second edition probably since that
really?
since I got it, but I think so. Maybe just some little alterations or whatnot. But yeah, in terms of that network, experience and track record, qualifications, where do you see most people have that in order? Qualifications first, experience, track record, just exactly the opposite way around.
Completely the opposite. There's people. Yeah. Well, here's the thing, right? Seth Godin, Purple Cat, and I kind of wrote a similar thing over the weekend, which is the aspects of your program that are absolutely indistinguishable from the teams that you beat are clearly not the reason that you win. If you squat, hinge, push and pull, and I do that, we're doing the same thing. The competitive advantage is gone, okay? So similarly, in business, you must be, this is a Seth Godin thing again, you must be remarkable. You must stand out for the crowd, and you have to have something that is scarce and valuable. So what do you bring to the table that nobody else has? Because that's what people are going to pay for. People, you know, I keep talking about women and Gucci handbags. They want the Gucci handbag because there's not a lot of them. Why does Supreme as a brand change hands for like 5 times what it costs in the store online? Because there's only 100 of them, whatever. So scarcity brings value. Now, what is remarkable and scarce and valuable in our profession? Is it a UKSCA accreditation? No. They got like, I think it's like 1,000 people right now have it, and they're adding more every single week. And they're like, oh, this is going to make the difference. No, it's not. Yeah. No, it's not. What's more scarce than a UKSCA accreditation? Experience working with high-level athletes and a proven track record of every time I go to a team, this, and this happen. Because not many people can say that. Plus, when you talk about qualifications, qualifications are a suggestion to the employer that you have the necessary skills and experience to effect a change. Yeah. Experience and a proven track record is a demonstration that you can do it, and you've already done it. So actually, it's less of a risky choice to an employer to select someone with experience over qualification. And then lastly, what is the most scarce thing of all? Being so well connected that they just give you the job. I've literally worked at a club where the owner's son was a strength coach. No qualifications, no experience. And the rationale for hiring him was, well, he loves to train. Now, if you're lucky enough to be in that position, you don't need to worry about the rest. Yeah. You know, so if you have an accreditation, but no experience and no network of people that want to give you a job, do not for a second kid yourself that more accreditation is going to be what advances you towards a job. So you need to work on all three. But when it comes down to it, network will always beat experience, and experience will always beat qualifications.
If you were hiring, have you hired? Are you got any power in hiring at William & Mary?
Yeah, I hire. Yeah.
Okay. Well, what's your process?
So
there could be HR situations that you certainly have to do, but what's your process?
Course, yeah. So what we do is we initially advertise a job, then we have a series of written tasks and problems built into the application where we are trying to get an insight into their thought process, their values, all that kind of stuff to get more insight than would be possible from a resume, CV, and cover letter. Because what happens with cover letters and resumes is they pump it out, boom, 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 boom. And you learn, you have to dig deeper to learn about that. And then we have criteria that we look for. But it's not necessarily the most qualified person or the person with the most letters after their name or certificates that gets a job. Mm-hmm. From there, we would go through to, this is the annoying thing about a collegiate, you can't include physical training of athletes in an interview process. Okay. Right. That should be it, but you can't. Yeah. So after that, then you go to another round of like a Skype or Zoom interview. And then what we're trying to do is get an equal understanding of character, then I would say skill set, and then critical thinking and problem solving. So we will give them some pretty tough questions, and they're all stolen. So I'm giving it away now. One question that we stole from Stanley McChrystal is, what would the people who don't like you say about you?
Yeah, that's in the book as well, isn't it? Yeah.
Because it requires you to be self-critical, to be vulnerable, to share that with people, to be open, and to be okay with the fact that not everyone's going to like you, and that's okay to an extent. We ask a Peter Thiel question, which is very, very hard to answer. It looks easy to answer on the surface. It's really hard to answer, which is what the 99% of our field believe to be true that you know to be wrong.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And you get the people that jump into it do terrible answers like, Olympic lifting isn't everything. That's not 99% of people. That's just basically like either side of a debate, or you'll have people that say, strength isn't everything. Here's my 1%, and it's easier for me to answer it because I ask it so many times a year. Modern strength and conditioning has caused more injuries than it will ever prevent. All right?
Yeah.
What do humans have a real good habit of doing? They figure out via trial and error what works and what doesn't work. Mm-hmm. So just by this failed, tweak it, this failed, tweak it. The longer a system has been around, the more humans will gradually get towards the correct answer for a situation. So prior to the advent of professional sport and professional strength and conditioning, we figured out by trial and error what is the maximum amount of work that an athlete can perform in a week without breaking. Mm-hmm. And then what we did was we piled on more competition, strength and conditioning coaches trying to justify their own existence, and we have to do more. Have we at any point taken out, or have we just continued to add on top? Mm-hmm. What continues to happen with hamstrings in Premier League soccer, ACLs in the AFL, all this stuff, the NFL, all these injuries go up. Now, if what we do is so effective in injury risk management and prevention, why do the injuries continue to go up? And that is because I think misapplied, our field is responsible for more injuries than we prevent. And then you can toss in stuff like 3G pitches, all that kind of stuff, competition schedules. The advent of professional sport has resulted in more injuries, not less, in my opinion.
blown a few people's minds there. I love the little emoji of the head coming off. Class. Okay. One last question on that. Yeah. In terms of skills and character, so character was the first thing that you mentioned. Not quite sure if it's the first thing on your list when you were going through that hiring process. If someone had the character, would you then, if someone had the right character but not the necessary skills, would you be happy for that to go in their favour?
Ideally, you want a candidate with all three, because you don't want someone who is lethally intelligent, highly practical, and a piece of shit person. You don't want someone who's like a golden retriever in terms of their character, but then just does not have the aptitude for it, because it is just a lie to say, you can be whatever you want. No, you can't. I'm probably never going to be an astronaut or a financial trader. There's a set level of intelligence that you have to have. And then obviously you have to have the problem solving ability to apply it and think on your feet and be adaptable. So given, which one do we have to give up first? We're going to give up character last.
Okay. Yep.
We're going to give that up last. And I would say, what's the second one that we'd give? What's the first one we're going to give up? Probably give up to be honest, I'd probably give up a little bit of intelligence.
Okay.
Because I believe there's a cap to how high a coach can rise based on intelligence and ability to think about high-level concepts. But you can have an assistant who maybe isn't quite as cerebral or intellectual as their peers, that can be highly effective and practical in solving problems with direction and supervision. Mm-hmm. So I think you have to, it varies a little bit, that you have to think about the environment you're in and who you're trying to appoint for a job. And then maybe as you get higher up and there's less contact with the athletes and less adaptability required, maybe you're hiring someone in research and development department, sports science, testing, and so on. It may be the other way around. But I don't, you do not want bad people in your organization regardless. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I'm just going to encourage people, if you've got any questions, fire them through. One last thing on the list. Starting is easy, finishing is hard. And I think that can be applied to so many, just in the situation we're in now. There's people like me doing, and you doing things like this. And this is something that I've been aware of. There's all the webinars and all this and online education. And that's, to kick that off, easy. And people may think that this is something they're going to do during this period. And when everything goes back to relative normality, that'll disappear and they'll crack on. But I think there's plenty of people out there who hopefully are taking this opportunity to start these kind of things, to build momentum, to carry on through the kind of normal period. And hopefully it'll be them kind of people that, I know that's not finished, but that's my kind of perception of that question in my world. There's plenty of people who are starting these kind of things, but not many who will follow through and keep going. And I think that consistency in, especially like on online education, is such a huge thing that people recognize and value. People just turn up, just fucking keep turning up, keep doing it. And that same applies in, I'm guessing, what this ebook is about. But with all that ramble, why was that in there?
Just as a reminder to myself, and it is true, I'm sure, 100% sure, the only reason I got the internship at London Wasps that was the springboard for the rest of my career was because I was the only one that applied. Mm-hmm. Or they just said, fuck it, give them an interview. Because that was the third year in a row that I messaged them. Yeah. So even a stop clock is right twice a day. And you will miss every opportunity that you don't turn up for. But you have to see it through. And once you've got that first opportunity, you have to keep chipping away and try and see it through to completion, because there's lots of things at play here that people confuse busyness with effectiveness. Mm-hmm. And I've been speaking to a couple of friends of mine. This situation right now is proof that even in the collapse of society, people will find a way to virtue signal. Mm-hmm. Most of these Zooms, webinars, talks, and so on, great. However, a lot of it is, look how busy I am. Yeah. And it's, I jumped on this Zoom. They've done more Zooms in the last month than they've done in the previous year. Yeah. Now, where are the tweets about, I have wanted to work on this project or this system for the last 3 years, and I've always been so busy coaching athletes that I never had time to do it? Mm-hmm. Where are the tweets about that? Mm-hmm. Where's the tweet about, well, I started this project in December, and now I finally get the opportunity to see it through to completion? So I think you have to be wary of that. There's another thing I think you have to be wary of. Brett talks about it. Brett Bartholomew talks about it. It's actually in 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You have that matrix of, is it urgent or not urgent? Yeah. Is it, I think it's like the other side is like valuable, not valuable. Yep. The things which are not urgent and valuable, that's the projects that you should be working on right now. All these little things that are distractions, they can feel good in the short term, but in reality, shutting yourself away and saying, you know what, I'm not gonna stop until this is done. That's where the value comes down the line. And I was reading an interview about Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. They're friends, and they were at a dinner party, and they were I think they were interviewing one another, and they said, write down what it is that has been your biggest gift in this world. Two completely different fields, investing in software, and it could be intelligence, good luck, blah blah blah. They both wrote down the word focus.
Right.
It was their focus, the ability to shut and ignore everything else. Peter Thiel, he's a friggin' weirdo, but I'm a good fan of his. He said in PayPal, when they were growing that company, whatever your job is, if you attempt to speak to me about anything that was unrelated to that job, I will walk past you like you don't exist. That's how focused you had to be. And I can't do that in the current role that I'm in, but I strive to be closer to that than further from it. Mm-hmm. So I will go from this beautiful weight room that we've got to the student rec center because people leave me alone. And I'll remove myself from the office and just work on stuff because people leave me alone. Mm-hmm. And it's the ability to isolate yourself and see things through, because you only get points for finishing.
Yeah.
Nobody cares how you start the race. They just care how you finish the race. Yeah.
Nice, mate. Love that. Couple of questions. Would you say that theory applies in all areas of career/work?
Which theory?
So would you say that theory applies in all areas of career and work? Can you, T_T Stevens, can you just clarify that? We'll go on to the next one. Keir, when you develop programs like Train Like a Wasp, which by the way was epic, did you believe would get to where you are now? Do you think you get to where you are now?
I mean, career-wise, I think, bizarrely, I've never had any doubt about would I get to where I wanted to be. So,
has it always been NFL? Has that always been the goal?
No. There was a period where I was pretty vocal about when I started in pro rugby. I was turning 25. And I had it in my head that if I could be a head strength and conditioning coach by the age of 30 in the Premiership, I would be a happy man. And that would be, I consider that to be not the pinnacle of my career, but God, like that's a real good achievement. And looking at it now, do I think that a head strength conditioning coach in the Premiership at age 30 is behind the curve or ahead of the curve? You're ahead of the curve. Mm-hmm. However, I did it at 28. I ended up being the head strength coach, speed, strength, and power of the Roosters by the time I was 28. It fell on my lap and it was a horrible job. But I did it by 28 and I was like, all right, what do I do? Quit that. And I was like, right, I want to go to the World Cup. So by 30, I'd done that and gone to the World Cup and I was like, right, what do I do now? So then I just decided right, I want to be in the NFL in 5 years. I'm 34 now, so it's not going to happen, but I'm still working towards that. I never had any real major doubts about would I get to where I wanted to be. I don't necessarily know the time frame. I give myself time frame goals just to light a fire underneath myself. But, it's only over when you quit. Will Stewart, who's a friend of mine in Sydney, he was an intern at the Roosters the year before I arrived there. He interned for years and volunteered for years, but he didn't give up. And we had, numerous conversations where I was like, look, it's only over when you give up. And now he's head strength coach for Australian men's sevens. And there, Fernando, my assistant, he ate shit for years and years and years. Now he's the head strength coach for Argentina sevens. So it's just one of those things where it's not that you're not going to make it, it's you're not going to make it just yet. Mm-hmm. And then you have to go through that process of why did I fail? What's the reason? What's the root cause of that? How do I remove that roadblock? And how do I go again? And it's just, it's that quote about going from failure to failure without losing enthusiasm. Now, in terms of the business, the Train Like a Wasp thing was just poverty. And they tried to, they tried to sell it to me of, well, we want you to be here next year. which is flattering. How's about you put together this small group training thing so you can afford to do that? And I said, you want me to pay to work for you? And it's like, yeah, well, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, I did it because I was trying to advance my career. It was more of a necessity at that time. It was, for a while, it was the most scalable thing I did, because it got to the point where I had people delivering the sessions for me, and I would just do the sales and marketing, start the session and go home, because my days were so long. Which was good. I would not do it again. I would not do it now. I would not do it. It was good at the time. I would not do it now, just because I really hate doing things more than once that could be done once. This is what I hate about collegiate sport, is you deliver the same session 3 or 4 times. And I was talking to Tony, a friend of mine, he now works in pro baseball. All this money that gets spent by colleges on, oh, look at our nice weight room and so on. And then they're content to do 3 or 4 sessions a day. If you think about the potential lost productivity and development of the system that happens by doing that 3 hours a day, 4 days a week, 48 weeks of the year and so on, multiplied by however many members of staff you have, really you should be spending more money on the front end to be able to put an entire team through that in one session, all hands on deck, high energy, and then say, you know what, we're going to work for the rest of the day on developing the system.
Yeah.
And this is what happened at Baylor when they went on that run. They were really successful. Andrew Altoff, I think, was in charge of that. They did 1 session a day and it was chaos, but you then give yourself so many hours a day to work on the system.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I'm just going to flick through the questions. There was one I like. It's very nice. Off topic possibly, but how are you both getting on during the pandemic? Over to you.
Me?
Bored to death.
Yeah, working on the website, working on stuff that we need to work on at college, trying to train as much as I can, taking a lot of walks. But that's basically it, Yeah. People been joking about social isolation and economic ruin, but I had a child 18 months ago. So
you did already?
Yeah.
One more down here. Do you find it difficult to manage coaches around time on field or managing players' training load when the pressure is on in season?
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, but do you want the short-term pain of self-control or the long-term pain of injury, lower performance and unavailable players?
Mm-hmm.
And this is why systems exist. Systems exist. You can look at a situation in a cold light of day and say what the necessary action should be. Systems exist to double down and remind you of that and avoid emotional decision making, because when you're in the heat of the situation, you will succumb to emotional decision making. So it's having the necessary systems in place to red flag that, having the necessary hierarchy. I think, is it Toyota? Any person in Toyota can push a button and stop the production line if something's not right. Now that's an example in sport, but you should have a relationship in place. We say, look, and really you're advising, but you can say, here are the risks associated with the action that you want to take. Here are the potential benefits of the action that you want to take. Based on the ratio between those two, my advice is to do X. And then you put it in writing and cross your fingers. And obviously, the quality of the relationship and their belief in your ability will dictate the extent to which that works and how that interaction works. But of course, and that is going to count more than anything when this is over. Because I said it to somebody else the other day. You're going to send out that program. Some kids are going to do it to the letter. Other kids are going to train themselves however they want to train, and some kids will not train. That is not under your control, because you can lead the horse to water, but it's not going to drink. Now, when you come back, we know injuries are caused via an imbalance between the capacity of the athlete and the demands placed upon the system. The demands placed upon the system, every rep is within the control of the person that holds the whistle. which is not you. So this is a problem that you cannot remote program your way out of this problem. So what you have to do is put in more work on building the kind of relationship where you can guide the person pulling the levers of change on the field to manage the demands placed upon the athlete and respect that imbalance between the two.
I'm going to go last question. The one there about find yourselves in situations with technical coaches. I guess, does this happen in rugby, where technical coaches have their own opinion on strength and conditioning, and then how that may be different? How different to yours? How do you manage that, or how have you managed that?
Man, it's tough. Tough. More than anything, relationship before everything. Okay. If I think you're a dick and you're right, doesn't matter. You're still a dick.
Mm-hmm.
If I believe that you know, like, and trust me, everything thereafter is easier. You cannot, in front of the boys or in front of the athletes, there has to be that unified front.
Of course.
Okay. Behind the scenes, there has to be the mutual respect of, would I come onto the field and advise you how to do this technical drill, this tactical drill, and so on? No, I keep my mouth shut. In the interest of unity and allowing me to do my job, firstly, please don't do that. Secondly, please rationalize your position on this, this, and this, and let's engage in a debate. Because
away from the lads.
If you are wrong and I'm right, I'm helping you.
Yeah.
If I'm wrong and you're right, you're helping me. And then it becomes that dialogue. But the relationship has to be the foundation for that dialogue. And it's not going to be solved overnight. But that's the only way it's going to happen.
Nice. I'll give people another second to ask any more questions. I enjoy this.
I got time.
I do enjoy this. I'm just going through to see if I've missed any questions. I think that's it. But if anyone's got any more, fire them through. I'm buzzing off this Instagram Live business. There's been no clarification on the question, so.
Mate, we've got 68 followers. Can we get two more? One more?
Oh, fucking hell. Yes. Right. What else have I got? Do you have anything else on the list? Oh, obvious one. Where can people get the ebook?
Just get it on my Instagram. There's a link in my bio, and then just download it.
Beautiful. I'm going to let you go because I'm. Oh yes.
What?
Rob, hardest decision as S&C. Hardest decision as S&C, Keir?
Hardest decisions. It was. In some regards, it was difficult to resign from Sydney Roosters because on the surface there were a lot of things about that job that were just appeared to be perfect. So living in one of the nicest places in the world, very high profile job, salary had tripled that year. I was, tons of resources, travel, all that kind of stuff. And, unfortunately, people's perception of you hinges upon your job. So despite all that, I was very, very unhappy with the job. So when you choose to resign from a job like that, you're giving up all of that. And it would be, well, I've only been there 6 months. What will people think of me? And money. And I caught myself calculating, well, if I make this much per week and I put up with it for this much longer, I'm going to make this much money. And I thought, not good.
Yeah.
Time to go.
Yeah.
So that was tough. Because it hurts your ego to admit that you failed. And
did you have something lined up before you left? Or just bolted, yeah?
I mean, I quickly made a phone call the next day, and yeah, I was on a plane to Exos about 4 or 5 weeks after that. That was tough. That was tough, but ultimately it paid off. And you know, I think one thing that I've demonstrated to myself a few times in my career is that being able to look in the mirror is more important than money and status. So I did that. You know, I took a 50% pay cut and went back to Argentina for that. I was very, very lucky to be able to get that job. And then it was a fairly difficult decision, somewhat, to leave rugby. You know, the pay cut that I took from Tokyo to Richmond was over $200,000 a year. But again, I decided how much money is enough money that I want to put up with this bullshit. So I decided it was not enough money. And you know, whenever you make a move like that, there's a risk that you could fall flat on your face. I'm dumb enough to believe that when I make a move like that, it's going to pay off. But of course, it's a reality that I could fall flat on my face, and it's going to be, oh, what are people going to think? Is the door shut to me in rugby? What if you know, blah, blah, blah.
Do you think it is? Surely not. Would this put you in a better position that you've been in the sport like?
I've chosen to shut it. I've chosen to shut it. I would never work in rugby again.
All right, okay.
That whole burn the boats.
Yeah.
I will get to where I want to be, or I'll fail in the process. I will not go back to rugby.
Okay.
Just because that mentality of having backups is not for me. Not in that regard anyway. So, you know, it was a little bit tough, but I thought what was more off-putting to me was the what if. So I was 32 and I thought, you know, now's the time, because I think there's two ways to take that route. One is to do the Adam Beard route, which is you're so well known within your sport, you're, you know, PhD level, a little bit older, all that kind of stuff. You go straight in at the top. And there's merits to that. But I was 32. I was not married. I did not have a PhD or that kind of stuff. So I decided, you know, rather than be straddling those two worlds, now's the time. And that was why I did it. Yeah.
Nice, mate. I'm going to let you go because it's coming up to an hour. So I'm going to let you get on with your day. But appreciate it again. We'll do it again.
Cheers.
Fucking love that.
StrengthCoachNetwork.com.
Absolutely. Thanks,
mate. Have you got a link for 50% of the month?
It's actually just conveniently in my Instagram bio as well.
Awesome.
For 50% off the first month. So, yeah,
awesome.
If anyone's interested, get involved.
Mate, we got a good one from David Johnson going up this month on LTAD and Premier League soccer.
Nice. Bournemouth?
Yeah.
Bournemouth?
Yeah.
Yep. Lovely.
Cool, man.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah, take it easy.
Soon. Bye, pal. Bye-bye.
Yeah.